Hello there, this is a new video for data transformation, and this is for our book club R for Data Science, and this is chapter 5, Data Transformation Part 2. And in the previous Part 1 video, you have learned filter function, and then you have learned arrange function, which is to arrange the data set according to at least one variables, like either arrange the data from the smallest observation to the largest or from the largest to the smallest. So for today, we will focus on two functions, and the first one is called select. Select is like you are trimming down the data according to the variables you have. Like you can just choose a few variables in the dataset without working on the full dataset all the time, because some of the variables you may find them useless for your analysis. So the second function we are going to talk about is called summarise, where you can actually summarize your data and generate a nice and organized table. Like you can get the values of mean and standard deviation according to like a categorical variable. So let's first look at the select function. I really like this function because it is so helpful. And let's think about how select can work. Like, suppose you have a data set with 1,000 variables, and in your analysis, you only focus on a small point where it only involves like 5 variables. So there is no point to use the full dataset with 1,000 variables all the time. It is better to create a smaller dataset with 5 variables so that all the calculations will be easier and quicker. So let's try to do that on our dataset, the flights dataset. But before we do anything, we need to load in the package so we can use all the functions within the packages. The first package is for using the functions or the verbs that we mentioned, and the second package is called NYC flights 13, and for this one we are going to use the flights dataset within that package. And if you forget what the flights dataset is about, you can just quickly run the 2 lines to load the package and then run the function ? On the dataset name. So you are able to see a detailed explanation on the dataset with all the variables in there. And let's work on our first question here. So a very basic example would be, I want to create a new data set with just year, month, and day information. So I only want to have such a small data set, even though the original data set, the flights, is so large. And to do that, you want to type the flights, the dataset name, and then create the pipe, and then you can just type select, and then you type the variables that you are selecting out. So you can type year, month, and day, and that's it. So you can run these 2 lines together, and you can see the dataset is actually printed out. And those are the observations you have, and you only have 3 variables in the dataset now, which is like as what we typed there. We have those year, month, and day, the only 3 variables there. And of course, you can save that data without printing it out in the console. You can actually save it as a name, right? You can name it as date data, and that information will be saved in here. So every time you want to check on it, you can just click the little table sign, and then you can look at the data set. We can also go another way to select out the variables. If you type everything like we did, and then you can use year, colon, and then day. In that way, you are also selecting out year, month, and day, because the variable names in the flights dataset are like, the first variable is year, the second is month, and the third is day. So if you do year, colon, day, you are selecting everything within between. So those are the same operation as what we did here. And another easier way to do this select operation, especially when you are asking for more variables, not just the 3 of them. So suppose my second question here is to create a new data set without year variable. So because the year variable is just 2013, and that's kind of a useless information. So we want to get rid of that column only. And we can type flights, select, and then you can use a minus sign. So if you use a minus sign, that means I'm getting rid of that variable and from the original data set. So you can see here, now the data starts from month, day, and so on. It is not including the year as the first column. And that year variable is not even in the data set now. So you can name it a new data, and then you can run that. And when you click here, you can see the new data is here without the year variable. So there are different ways to use the select function, and more operations are, so sometimes you may only want to work on the check on the delay information, right? Because if you look at the variables we have, if you look at the variable names, you can see we have departure time, scheduled departure time, departure delay, arrival delay, and so on. So sometimes you may want to only look at the delay information. So let's create a new data set with the delay information only. So if you check the variable names, you can see we have this variable ends with the delay, and this variable ends with the delay. So one thing you can do is to just type the variable names within the select function. And another way to do it is to type flights, select, and then you can type ends with. So this is another function that can be used within the select function. And you can type quotation mark of delay. That means if the variable names are ended with the delay, then they will be selected. And you can call this delay data. And you can write. So in this way, this is our delay data set. If you click it here, you can see this variable, this data set only has 2 variables, departure delay and arrival. Now let's think another question. So suppose I want to create a new data set with time information as well as delay information. So those are things that I'm most curious about. So I want to create a dataset with only these two kinds of information. So if you look into the variable names, we have some variables ends with time, and we have time hour as well. We have hour, minute as well, and we have departure delay and arrival delay. So one thing you can do is to type out all the variables in the select function. And a quicker way to do it is to check what are the common things of those variables. Like for example, if you look at the time variables, they all contains the time, that word in their names. So maybe you can use a function called contains, and then you can type time. So that means if the variable name contains time, then you can select that variable out into the new dataset. And another thing is about the delay. So you can just use a comma and then you select more variables out. Delay. And then we also looked at hour, minute, time, and time hour will be selected. So maybe we can just type hour and minute, so they will also be selected out. So these are the data set with time and delay information, and I can name it time delay data. And you can actually click that time delay dataset, and you can see all the variables are either about time or they are about delay. So that's how you create a smaller dataset with fewer variables. Now I think we can talk about the summarise function within the dplyr package. So summarise function is for summarizing data. Like you can calculate the mean, the median, the standard deviation, like all the statistics you can think of. So let me use first example here, and in this example we want to summarize the average departure delay from the dataset. So one thing we can do is to type flights, and then we can just use summarise, and then within the summarise function we can define mean departure delay as the mean of the variable that we have, departure delay. But you cannot just run these two lines here because there are missing values in the data set. If you look at the delay data, you can see on the bottom there will be many NA values. See, those are missing values. Maybe because the flights are cancelled, so there is no records for the departure delay. So one thing you can do, I'm going to make a note, this will not work due to missing values. And you can just copy this whole line, and then within the mean function you can type comma na.remove equals true. That means if there are any missing values, we should remove these missing values and then they calculate the average. So now we can run these two lines. So you can see the mean departure delay is about 12.6 minutes. And you can also use summarise function together with group by. So group by is like its name. You can group by a few other variables to calculate the mean value of departure delay. So as an example, question 2, the mean departure delay at different days or different days. Then we can type flights, and then we can use group by first. So we can group by month and day, and then we add our summarise function. So we can just copy everything in here, and that means when we do group by first, we are calculating the mean departure delay according to each month and each day. So you can see here, there are actually 365 records, and it is showing the month and day, and there is an average departure delay. And we also have month and day and departure delay. So for each day, we are able to see the mean departure delay. So now I want to bring up a follow-up question, which is that you may want to arrange your data to see which day or which date of the year of 2013 has the highest average delay. So let's do that by type the question first. Which day has the longest departure delay on average? So we start with dataset name, and then we add our first pipe, and then we add our second pipe, and then we add our third pipe, which is to arrange the variables, arrange the values of the mean. Like this. So we want to see the longest departure delay first, and then the lowest at the very end. So now you can see the 8th day of March has the longest average departure delay, and it is 83.5 minutes. And the July 1st has the second longest departure delay. So you can actually see that by saving this data set into mean delay data, and then you can run that, and then you can click here which date has the longest departure delay and which date has the shortest departure delay. It is actually a negative number. I guess I can add another question here just to let you see we can actually create a summarise table. So maybe we can calculate the mean departure delay and the mean arrival delay according to this. So one thing we can do is to add our first pipe for sure to group the data by month and day. And then we can add our summarize information. It is our summarize calculation. So we can define the mean departure delay, add a comma, and then you can add the mean arrival delay, where you are going to calculate this number according to arrival delay. So according to this variable, you are going to calculate mean arrival delay. And you can see if you want to add more summarizing information, you can just type comma and add another calculation sentence. So because I only want to calculate these two values, so I can just use one comma and add another calculation, and then this is done. So I can run this data, and you can see that we do have a column called mean departure delay, and we have another column called mean arrival delay. Okay, that's enough information. I will make another video to talk about the mutate verb, and see you in the next video.